Alyssa Moffett and Renato Menendez. Sorry. Don't have my glasses on, and I'm dyslexic, so it's a little offside there. As well as Ayush Patel, who are going to be talking about the effects of latitude and degree of urbanization on body size and lanternflies, and a very appropriate topic for how they've been growing along those times. So I'm going to open that up to you guys, and I can find this something.
Thank you.
All right. Everybody hear me okay? Is this fine all right? Good? All right. Hello everybody, my name is Renato Mendez.
And I'm Alyssa Moffett.
We are juniors right across the street at Kane University, and we're here to tell you a story about a very cool creature that you're probably already familiar with, the invasive species, the spotted lanternfly. Now, body size is such an important parameter for any animal's biology, and this quote perfectly sums that up, as it reads, "It is only a slight overstatement to say that the most important attribute of an animal, both physiologically and ecologically, is its size."
Now, what specifically about body size in animals is so important? Well, it affects many things, such as their reproductive success, how many mates they might have, their thermal tolerance, their ability to maintain their internal environment, their metabolic rate, how long they're going to live, and their survivorship as compared to other animals in that ecosystem, which affects the broader ecosystem. Now, more specifically, I want to zoom in on the animal, the ectotherm. An ectotherm is what you might consider a cold-blooded animal. And what that means is that the environment is significantly affecting its internal regulation. Now, what we tend to see is known as Bergmann's rule. What this rule states is that as we get further from the equator and it gets colder, we're seeing ectotherms that are developing slower and becoming larger adults.
So, we talked about what happens in colder environments. Let's see what happens in warmer environments. Because guys, it's getting hot in here. And the reason for that heat is something known as the urban heat island effect. This effect happens when urbanized areas generate more heat than their surrounding rural areas. The reason for this is that in urbanized areas, there is more concrete, more asphalt that absorbs that heat and retains it longer than its natural surrounding areas.
Now, more specifically, how does this temperature change that we see in cities affect body size? Well, what we would expect to see is that in ectotherms in cities, they would be developing faster and be smaller as adults than those in the rural environments that would be larger, developing slower and larger as adults.
Guys, introducing the ectotherm of the hour, the planthopper, spotted lanternfly planthopper. Introduced to the United States in 2014, native to China, it is a major threat to U.S. agriculture, with a variety of plant species for its diet, from vineyards found in rural areas such as farms, to the tree of heaven, which still happens to be its favorite source of food, and coincidentally enough, the tree of heaven is found in most urban areas.
Now, we can see the distribution of the spotted lanternfly throughout the eastern United States. And what we're seeing is that we have the spotted lanternfly as far north as New York State and as far south as North Carolina. And what this means is that we have a large latitudinal gradient as well as a large urbanization gradient with many cities such as New York City and Philadelphia.
So let's get into some of our hypotheses. Hypothesis number one, there's a positive relationship between latitude and body size. Essentially what this boils down to is a higher latitude leads to a colder environment leads to a slower development in body, which equals a bigger body size.
And now our second hypothesis has to do with that effect of urbanization on body size. Now, we would expect that there would be a negative relationship between urbanization and body size. So as we're increasing urbanization, it's going to be getting hotter. And then we're going to have faster developing ectotherms and spotted lanternflies that would be having a smaller body size than those in the surrounding rural environments. And now, how do we collect the data? You can see in this map our collection sample sites, and we collected 806 spotted lanternflies from 48 collection sites, and we measured using digital calipers from the snout to the wingtip to measure their body size. specifically, how are we quantifying urbanization? Now, urbanization is percent of impervious surface, which is also known as concrete. So we're using this percent impervious surface, or concrete, as a proxy for the degree of urbanization.
We further did that using a software known as GIS, Geographical Information System. We first started by downloading the National Land Covers Percent Impervious database. Then we mapped out a buffer system of 5 kilometers from each collection site. Then we just clipped those buffers so we're only seeing that percent impervious surface within our buffers. Last, we used a zonal statistic tool that was able to give us an actual number that provided that percent impervious surface within that buffer. Lastly, we use a statistical analysis, which is a simple linear model to test the relationship between both impervious surfaces and latitude in correlation with body size. And here, very cool, what we found. First, we found there is a significant positive effect between latitude and body size. And what this means is, it proved what we suspected correct. The higher up you go in latitude, the larger body size. What's incredible about this is that we've only covered about a half degree in latitude, from as low as Philadelphia to as high as New York City. It's not that great of a distance, and still we're seeing a significant impact.
What's even more interesting is that there was no effect of percent impervious surface on body size in both male and female spotted lanternflies. And what this means is that we did not see that effect of urbanization. So the spotted lanternflies in cities were not any smaller than those in the surrounding rural environments.
So, leads us to the question, why are we not seeing that same correlation? One possible factor could be non-urban habitats inside urban areas. For example, this is Central Park. Central Park, a non-urban area, but obviously surrounded by a ton of urbanization. What this could act for as the the habitat that could be presented here is a mimic of the natural habitat that the spotted lanternfly would be well adjusted to, essentially mimicking that thermal environment that it would in a rural natural environment.
And now, what other factors might we see here that we might not be accounting for besides just temperature that could be having an impact on body size? Well, in cities, we tend to see increased competition for resources. We also see varying types of host plants in cities as opposed to in rural areas. And so what we expect is that this might have an effect on their nutrition, which could directly impact their body size. Also, there might be local adaptation, so there could be changes in the genes and not just the environment that we're not accounting for.
Lastly, we'd like to thank the National Science Foundation for funding our research. And if you guys want to know more about what we're doing next and what's going on currently, you can scan this QR code that will send you guys directly to our team's website where you can find out what we're doing next. Thanks so much for listening.